Suppliers. Betrayal and forced compliance. My name is Daryl Guberman, ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, suppliers, probably subcontractors. I am recognized quality expert. I will not elaborate too much, but I will tell you this. Boeing placed a gun to your head and perpetrated a fraud with your business. And I don't make that up. After 9/11, Boeing came out with an article on CNN Money that stated that they were going to lay off 20 to 30,000 employees. In April of 2002, they came out with a supplier bulletin that said all suppliers, in order for you to supply materials, you got to be NADCAP certified for special processes, heat treat welding, non-destructive testing. And that's put out by Performance Review Institute. Send your certs, send your parts. We don't have to bother coming out to see with you, only if the need arises. And we're getting rid of redundant inspection. For Boeing, redundancy meant sending in inspectors, I imagine. In July 2002, Boeing came out with a supplier bulletin that stated that all suppliers must be, and this is where it comes to you, ladies and gentlemen, all suppliers must be AS9100 certified, international standard, ANAB accredited. On their supplier bulletin, where you would go to find out to be a supplier, it stated third-party registers must be ANAB accredited or international equivalent, which could be China, Iran, and Pakistan. And for you suppliers who are veterans, think about that one, Iran, Pakistan, or China. Or just in general, Iran, who admitted harboring terrorists of 9/11, Pakistan, who harbored the mastermind, Osama bin Laden, can come into your shop basically and give you a certification? Yes, it can. They're equivalent in accreditation to ANAB. Yes, they are. We're going to continue on, but then they came out with the Heads Up 22 in October 2003, saying that you must be put on the OASIS database, and you cannot refuse to be put on the database. You can't refuse to pay the database fees. And the International Aerospace Quality Group was ruling over the Online Aerospace Systems Information System. And who was there in 2003? 65% was being controlled by Boeing. Now we come up to Elizabeth Lund, who said, and she was the vice president of quality at the Boeing company, in June 27, 2024, in a Reuters interview, she said, we are now willing and prepared to get AS9100, and we are compliant to it, and we are auditing internally as if we were certified. Well, I went out there, ladies and gentlemen, to check it out for myself in October of 2024, and guess what I found out? I went to Everett, Renton, Auburn, Northfield, asked 300 or 600 people, stayed almost a month. Very expensive, to say the least, but it was the best education I got. It's not just AS9100 I asked these employees. I asked them other things, too, that I haven't yet released yet. We have a lot of information. And what happened was, I asked them, do you know anything about AS9100? No. Do you know anything about internal auditing for, just auditing or internal auditing for the AS9100? And they said no. I scratched my head and I said, well, in that article, Elizabeth Lund said that we were internally auditing as if we were certified, and they're telling me no. On 9/11, Boeing announced layoffs of 20 to 30,000 employees. By July 2002, they issued the supplier bulletin mandating the American National Crediting Board accreditation and AS9100 certification. That bulletin forced you into a system where compliance was dictated not by quality, but by bureaucracy. Worse, it allowed international equivalents like China, Iran, and Pakistan to be treated as equal authorities. In October 2003, ANSI and ANAB pushed Heads Up 22, requiring all AS9100 suppliers to be listed on the OASIS database. You could not refuse. You could not opt out. You had to pay fees to be listed. And if you did opt out, Boeing wouldn't use you as a supplier anymore. Fast forward, June 27th, 2024. Boeing's VP of Quality, Elizabeth Lund, claimed Boeing was willing and prepared to comply with AS9100 and had been internally auditing for years. Yet Boeing never held an AS9100 certificate, even to this time in 2025. For 23 years they didn't. Building over 12,000 aircraft commercial in an uncertified, unverified, unsanctioned environment, and also 400 plus military in the same type of environment. From 2014 to 2024, Boeing sat on ANAB's Management System Accreditation Committee, granting, suspending, and withdrawing certification while not certified themselves. That's fraud, plain and simple. That's coercion. That's betrayal. And I'm going to call to action, suppliers. You were forced into this illusion. You were exposed. You can expose it. You can demand accountability. You can refuse to be pawns in a system where Boeing dictates rules they themselves never follow. And I'm going to leave it here. My number is 203-556-1493 to prove to you that I was out there. That picture was taken. I've got a lot more. I've got copious amounts of pictures. I've been involved with quality for over 40 plus years. I have heard suppliers, when I first started my business in 2011, Daryl, I got to pay to play. Daryl, I got to buy the ticket for the game. That's not the way it is supposed to be. And you know something? You build your part for Boeing to the blueprint. You think your certificate is good behind you. In fact, you may have just gotten your surveillance audit, recertification audit, or certification audit to be AS9100. Boeing gives you a blueprint. You build it to the blueprint. Perfect. You are AS9100. They are not. You send your part into the abyss, and your part, no matter how dimensionally good it is junk. Yes, it is. It is junk because of the whole thing. As you know, you may not know, but if you are AS9100 and another company is AS9100, you have continuity. You have integrity throughout the system. If, like Boeing, was off and they weren't certified, your part's going into the abyss. And what makes matters worse, they pulled the wool over all your eyes. Even the investment firms like BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, and State Street, they all looked at this and said, wow, they have a robust quality system. They're sitting on the accreditation body's board that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification from 2014 to 2024. This is what you call an illusion. And ANAB cooked their goose. If you're ANAB accredited or international equivalents, it's a fraud. The certification is worthless, valueless. I'm the guy who broke open the largest industrial and fiduciary scam when I stood up in April 17th at the DHS subcommittee. A friend of mine said, Daryl, do you know how many people you were speaking for that day? I says, how many? 4.7 billion people who fly on planes every year. Yes, statistically, flying is safe. But if you don't know how your plane was made, safety will eventually go down. We see it with Airbus, 6,000 aircraft on the ground, a glitch in the system. And I wrote them a letter in September of 2025 telling them so, that you have to push safety, safety, safety. And you know what they said? Safety is everybody's job. And I wrote back, if you have safety as everybody's job, it's nobody's job. What are these people thinking about? Maybe he's thinking about croissants and some tea or something. Who the heck knows? Bouillabaisse, who the heck knows? These people don't listen. And that's it. Suppliers, you got screwed. I've been telling you time and time again, your cert is valueless. And I've got the proof. I've told you time and time again. And we're the guy who opened up the biggest industrial fiduciary scam. The problem is when I got up, I knew what I was coming up against. I had Bloomberg and Politico question me on these two notifications. And you know what they said? Daryl, we can't tell the general public we can't tell them that they gave up on-site auditing for 22 years. Not only that, they built 12,000 aircraft without being AS9100. I don't care how good their paperwork is inside the facility. It just doesn't cut the mustard when you're not internationally on the same playing field as your suppliers and you're pushing your suppliers to get AS9100, or you can't do business with Boeing. It should be the other way around. You're not certified, Boeing. I'm not going to do business with you. And by the way, I'm a shareholder. 203-556-1493. I thank you.